So far, it's been a competitive first half of the Precision Racing League Cup Series season. 3 drivers have found their way to victory lane in the first 4 races. Richard Regan Jr., Dallas Bataska, and Rachel Hunt. All 3 of those drivers thrive at tracks such as tonight's venue, Charlotte Motor Speedway, with drivers carrying speeds as high as 185 miles per hour. Drivers will be tested not just in terms of their patience and ability to pass, but also their ability to conserve equipment to try and break away from the pack. Who will take home tonight's victory? We're about to see live on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway in Concord, North Carolina for the 5th race of the Precision Racing League Cup Series season. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is NASCAR iRacing World Championship Series driver Christian Challoner. Behind the scenes is our director Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. Now, what's the best way to get around this 1.5-mile circuit? Let's take a look at your GSRC lap guide to find out.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Global Sim Racing Channel. I'm Brian Yazek. This is the GSRC Chevrolet SS and this is Charlotte Motor Speedway. Fun little 1.5-mile oval, legendary, and does not need an introduction if you're a fan of NASCAR. So for your hot lap, swinging it real wide through the dogleg, going back down here into turn 1, off the gas a little bit, rolling back into the throttle. If you go back into it too hard, that sign right there on the wall is going to be waiting for you and knock the whole right front right off of the car. Turns 3 and 4, your braking marker. Some can drive it a little deeper. I prefer to let off right about where the dotted lines end. Really seems to let the car get a good set and a good bite into the corner. So, Charlotte, as the run progresses, you might see guys in 1 and 2 only venture way up here into this 2nd and 3rd groove. If it's the daytime, you'll see this. Nighttime, maybe not so much. But you get a great hole shot down the back stretch and can really set yourself up for a good pass going here into turn 3. Turn 3 doesn't quite have the same level of banking or the same grip level, and the high groove just, no matter how hard you try, never comes in. So swinging it down here through the quad oval, completing your line, and that will also complete our track guide around Charlotte Motor Speedway. I'm Brian Yazek. Enjoy the show.
That was a look at your GSRC lap guide for the best way around Charlotte Motor Speedway. Now let's bring in my broadcast partner, Christian Challoner. What are your thoughts when it comes to this track? Because the races with this package are very hectic, to say the least.
Yeah, well, this is the 1.5 miles that everybody knows, with it being Charlotte. It's kind of the big race with the Coke 600, but as the surface is kind of aged and this newer version of the track that we've now got in iRacing, it's made it a lot more tricky. It's a lot more bumpy. It is still a regular 1.5-mile track with 24 degrees of banking, but it's definitely one of the trickier ones we have now.
Absolutely. It's going to make it interesting to see who's going to be able to manage this racetrack as this race progresses tonight. But tonight's race and the series is presented by Diecast Kings. Shop Diecast Kings, your home for the best selection of NHRA and NASCAR diecast cars at diecastkings.com. Once again, diecastkings.com. Facebook, you can also find them there, facebook.com/diecastking. Who's leading the championship standings? Let's take a look at the points. Entering tonight's action, where it's Richard Regan Jr. who is up on top of the standings. He's the only driver with multiple victories so far, and he has a 29-point advantage over Corey Silva. Pat Harvey comes into tonight 3rd after a strong showing at Bristol, followed by Rachel Hunt, who came away with the W. She's tied for 3rd. James O'Brien rounds out the top 5 in the Drivers' Championship standings. For the team standings, it's Skidmark Motorsports with a strong showing so far, with 6 top 10s so far in the first 4 rounds as a unit. They had 1 top 5. Primetime Racing is in 2nd, with Pilot Performance Group, LeBoy Motorsport, and Crash Motorsports amongst some of the other drivers. Whataback Road Trip Racing also having some good performances so far as a unit in 2020's first season. Now let's take a look at the race details, Christian. For those tuning in for the first time, this is the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, it's round 5 of 10, and tonight we're going to be doing 85 laps or 60 minutes. Last time we covered the series at Bristol, we did see that it actually did reach the time limit, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. As usual, we're going to be on fixed setups, no fast repairs, and a 24 incident limit tonight.
And that's going to be important. Remember, with the full fuel, the fuel runs just under about 60 laps for tonight. Let's take a look at the track conditions that these drivers are preparing for tonight's action for. 76 degrees the air temp, 81 degrees Fahrenheit is the track temp. Low winds, a bit high humidity though at 58% tonight.
So with the track temp being so low, we're probably going to see some pretty quick times tonight, and obviously some positions pretty low too, so I expect the track to get faster as this race goes on.
Absolutely, you're following on with some of the drivers as they make their way around for final warm-ups. They'll qualifying in about 7 minutes or so, making about 1 minute and 26 seconds, pardon me. The fastest times up on the board, 29.5s, set by Josh Colley, Danny Cervantes, along with Thomas Morris, Colton Lane, and Pat Harvey. Keith Haney, Richard Regan Jr., along with Charles Sumner, Robert Bichon Jr., and Adam Zemke round out the top positions in practice. In terms of pace for tonight's action, what should we expect in terms of rather the racing for tonight? Because we've seen how it is at the 1.5 miles, but Charlotte, it can be a little bit different with the quad oval portion of the circuit.
Yeah, the quad oval portion kind of makes it a little bit difficult to even go 2 wide through there, so I don't suspect we'll see many instances of 3 wide. You do occasionally see some incidents because of that. It is quite a sharp dogleg, and it can catch people out, especially if they're on the outside tucked up behind a car. So I think the starter runs, we're going to see everybody able to run 2 wide for maybe at least 3 or 4 laps. After that, I suspect we'll see everybody get into single file and kind of figure their way out from there until the tires start to fall off, maybe around about lap 15 to 20.
Yeah, that's where it's going to get curious to see who are the biggest comers and goers in this race for tonight. Who are you keeping an eye on at this point as we get all set for qualifying in terms of who you think this will very much suit tonight?
Well, we spoke a little bit about Rachel Hunt and obviously came away with a win. So I expect that we'll see her up there as usual. It's a 1.5 miles. It's kind of the sort of track that she tends to do best at. Obviously, we can't really talk about a race without talking about Richard Regan Jr. because he's been really the class of the field so far. So I suspect we'll see him at the front as well.
I think so too, but these drivers are set to see who can get themselves to the front. They have 5 minutes to set 2 qualifying laps up on the surface for tonight's action. In terms of qualifying, again, track position, very crucial when it comes to the 1.5 mile circuits with this package. And that means one thing, a lot of drivers are going to want to put in the best times. Already a couple drivers making their way to the racetrack, followed along with the 76 machine. As he comes onto the racetrack, the number 76 machine of James Duke, looking to have a good run along with the rest of the field tonight.
Yeah, and they all have to navigate this pit exit, and it's quite difficult actually ever since they put this rule in where you have to stay until you see that blue cone there on the exit of the pit road. That's kind of the first point where you're allowed to move up onto the track without getting a penalty, and it has made qualifying definitely more tricky in my opinion, and some of these tracks have got really difficult pit roads to get off of as well.
Well, the reason they have the blue cone rule is you don't want drivers coming onto the racetrack from the pits straight into the racing line. So it makes it's made it safer in that regard. But already the drivers trying to line up towards the outside wall and build up as much speed as they can to get the start of the qualifying run together. The fastest way around is that bottom line. If you're stuck on the top, especially in the race, Christian, that could spell trouble in terms of not just your positioning, but your tires on the long run.
Yeah, and the top's extremely bumpy in 1 and 2 as well, so you don't want to be up there if you can help it. We have seen in the past it becomes a little bit of a defensive line, but we've also seen with the new V7 tire that any line other than the preferred tends to be slower. So I think if we see guys stuck out on the top side, especially in the 1 and 2 area, they're going to really want to be fighting to get back into the bottom as soon as they can.
Danny Cervantes, you've been looking at Lon as he's put in his qualifying time at 29.792 to start. The quickest time is always the second one, though, when it comes to this package. Already looking to make his way around the racetrack as well. We also have Pilot amongst the other drivers who have put in times. 10 so far have put times up on the board. So looking good so far qualifying. The fastest of the drivers so far, Colton Lane, who's recorded both his times with a 29.686, just bumped up from Tellez and Cervantes, who put in 29.65s and 6s respectively.
Yeah, we see drivers going just a little bit slower than they were in practice. Nobody able to get into 29.5s yet. Don't suspect we will see drivers in the 29.5s just because they don't have that draft assistance with it being single car qualifying.
Looking at Corey Silva now, currently at 29.827. That's the slowest of the first lap so far for the rapid fire graphics machine. Taking a matte look tonight on the 94 machine. Looking to try and get speed along with the rest of the drivers. Silva just crossing the stripe now. Has just put in a 29.749, not the best of laps. And should note, there is on the 94 machine, you may have noticed there a little bit of a patch on the left rear today. The sports world was saddened by news today of the passing of Kobe Bryant in a helicopter crash. Corey Silva running with a 24 in honor of Kobe Bryant for tonight's action. Sticking around with the qualifying, however, on the racetrack at the moment, you're following along with Horatio Colquhoun in the 666 machine. A 30.195 to start qualifying. That leads to a 29.877. Not the best of qualifying runs for Horatio.
Yeah, it looks like a couple of drivers are struggling to keep it pinned on the bottom as long as necessary to get that kind of fastest time. And I think that's where we're seeing a little bit of divergence in terms of the times. Obviously, everybody's still packed very, very closely together. We've got 29.65 as the pole right now, down to a 29.877 in 15th.
About a minute to go here in qualifying as we follow on with some of the other drivers looking to record times here. Who's really standing out to you? Because we have Tellez, Regan Jr., Cervantes, O'Brien, and Lane currently in the top 5. But a lot of the drivers we normally see towards the front are in the 20s at the moment after both of their laps.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised that we've got Rachel Hunt down in 22nd with a 29.91. That does look like it was a true pace lap. Oh, okay, there's one lap to go. And there we go, straight up to second, so that was my mistake right there. But interesting for me is that we see Jose Tellez on the pole right now. Mm-hmm. He's a driver we've seen near the front a couple of times this season, but never actually in the lead.
I was pointing more towards drivers like Silva towards the back. In 20th position, Thomas Morris, who's had some good runs with this package at these types of tracks, in 15th. Brandon Maciejewski in 11th position on the board on the left side of your screen. Interesting qualifying tonight here at Charlotte, to say the least.
Yeah, a little bit surprising to see Corey Silva that far back. Obviously, we've seen him be pretty fast the past couple of weeks, so for him to be about a 10th off the pole is a little bit surprising.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at how those start for tonight's action here from Charlotte Motor Speedway for 85 laps of racing action. It's Jose Tellez who will bring them to the green flag with a 29.653 in qualifying. Rachel Hunt will start on the outside. Richard Regan Jr. starts in 3rd position with Danny Cervantes in 4th. Charles Sumner in the Tropicana machine with one of his best qualifying runs of the season starts in 5th. James O'Brien, one of the top cars in practice, is in 6th. He tied with Colton Lane in terms of times. O'Brien had the tiebreaker, so Lane starts in 7th. Evan Black starts in 8th position tonight with Adam Zemke and Joshua Daniels rounding out your top 10.
And then we've got Brandon Maciejewski in 11th. Interesting position for him to be starting in. Normally one of those drivers that tends to start at the back, but actually starting pretty far forward. We've seen some exciting runs from him, so it'll be good to see what he can do from there. Then we've got Josh Slade in 12th. Brandon Chatley 13th. Dan McLaren, another driver that we've seen with some good pace, starting 14th. Along with Thomas Morris in 15th and James Duke in 16th. Stephen Durbin and Michael Lorty are 17th and 18th. And then Chad Brown is 19th with Corey Silva with that slightly disappointing run there in 20th.
Robert Melican, one of the top drivers in practice, down in 21st position. Juan Francois Pelon in 22nd. Jake Honchel in 23rd. And Horatio Colquhoun, the last driver in qualifying, the only driver in the 8th in 24th. The rest of the drivers on provisionals: Josh Coley, Scotty Johnson, Paul Williams II, Pat Harvey, Robert Fischott Jr., David Wilson Jr., Keith Haney, and Jeff Costello round out the 32 drivers who will take the grid today. So once again, 24 degrees in the bankings, 85 laps for tonight's action. Should be an interesting one to say the very least, Christian. Your keys to victory.
Well, I definitely think ties are going to come into play if we get a longer run, and it is going to end under the lights, so I don't think track temperature is going to matter so much in that sense. It's always realistically going to be getting colder. We can do this race on only one stop, especially with 100% fuel, so I don't think there's really any pit strategy to be played here. It's all about keeping yourself at the front and not getting cycled to the back if you, say, get stuck on the top line.
Curious to see, though, what would happen if you are stuck in the back at this point. What do you do if you're those types of drivers? It is the start of the race, so anything can happen, but if you're, say, one of those cars near the tail of the field, what's the strategy to try and move your way up to the front?
I think it's going to be very difficult to pass, and especially if you stay in around 15th and 20th position at about, say, lap 35, it wouldn't surprise me to see some people making a gamble and pitting as early as that, because they will get some advantage from it, and it will cycle you quite significantly forwards. So if you get a late yellow, it's possible that you're going to retain a lot of the track position that you gained.
Curious to see who can come away with the victory tonight. Curious to see who will have the best strategy. But again, 85 laps, 1 hour to decide a winner tonight. As we reach the halfway point of the season for the PRL Cup Series, sponsored by Die Cascades. Jose Tellez in control of the field on the inside line, driving the Illinois Racing logoed machine. Rachel Hunt in the Emerald Coast Coins machine on the outside line. To the start zone they go. Green flags up on the stand. We're underway from Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Clean start so far, and we'll have to see how that top line does through 1 and 2 here.
Reagan Jr. was already bump drafting Tellez all the way into turn number 1 as they try and go down the back straightaway. Already Tellez cutting off the bottom side. Reagan Jr. not wanting to get stuck on the top, moves back to the bottom, cuts off Charles Sumner to get to the bottom of 3.
Yeah, we see Rachel Hunt actually had an opportunity to drop back in on the bottom and chose not to take it. Still out there on the top side.
And that's not the best of things with this package at this track. Hunt already losing 3rd position. Danny Cervantes also shuffled up to the top side. Here comes Colton Lane looking to move his way up to 4th position down the back straightaway. The thing is, though, Hunt's got drafting help. Lane does not down that back straightaway.
And Jose Tellez made a little bit of a mistake there. He didn't cover off the bottom quickly enough, and Regan Jr. has managed to get a nose underneath him. Looks like Tellez has just cleared him on the front stretch, but he won't make that mistake again.
Taking a look from the back end of Jose Tellez's machine in the number 24. Looking to keep that 46 machine in the rear view mirror for the time being on the short run. They've already pulled away by 4 or 5 car lengths as they've scrapped for 3rd on back. Regan Jr. being more patient this time of the run to the 3, couldn't get to the bottom. But a majority of the top 10 already to the bottom side. Majelecki already a +3 along with Colton Lane in this race.
Yeah, and some big losers in this so far have been Danny Cervantes. He's down in 10th from 4th, so really hasn't worked out for him starting on that top line. Just wasn't able to get in as quick as everybody else.
Regan Jr. to the inside for the race lead, up at the front. Into turn number 3, he takes the bottom side, away in the 46 machine. Can he keep up the run, though, off the exit? You see there, if you can get to the top side, you can maybe get a run, but Tellez instead elects to back off. New leader, Richard Regan Jr.
Yeah, Regan Jr. wasting no time getting to the lead there, and saw Tellez hold him off for a couple of laps, but I think Regan Jr. is just now going to try and control this race from the head.
And it's difficult to try and break away on the short run when it comes to Charlotte Motor Speedway because, again, the tire fall off you mentioned doesn't come in until about 20 laps in. The draft allows so many cars to reel you back in by at least a 10th a lap on the short run, where you have to play defense so long if you want to keep the lead potential.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that you can't really escape, so you can't really be trying to escape, because all that will happen is you'll just hurt your tires more than everybody behind you. And then when it does get to that point where the tire fall off makes a difference, they'll all be quicker than you. So if you are the leader, you have to play it smart. You can't try and get away, but you do obviously want to retain that track position.
What are some of the ways you can play it smart, say, if you're Richard Regan Jr.?
Well, the biggest thing for him is making sure that he doesn't give up the bottom line like Tellez did on him, and the longer it goes, the better the chance he has of retaining the lead. And I think his big key is just not allowing him to get any runs, especially off of 2, so that he can make that same move that he did to Tellez in the 3.
Battle for 4th position underway as Lane left the bottom open. Rachel Hunt opened up the door and just took the spot away. And now the 60 machine's in trouble because James O'Brien has also just followed on through. So Lane falls out of the top 5, losing 2 positions in 1 corner essentially.
Yeah, you could see there in 3 and 4 where he got to that top line and there was just no grip up there and just lost those positions, had nothing for him up there.
Following along with Adam Zemke at this point. He is in 7th position, a +2 for him so far, but he's about to feel some pressure because he's right now not as quick down this straightaway compared to the car just behind him. You see Brandon Majelecki? We talked about him a moment ago, +3 already, starting in 11th position, taking advantage of the bottom side, had already reeled in that 21 machine by 2 car lengths through the quad oval.
Yeah, Majelecki's in a good spot here. He's got a little bit of a gap, so he can maybe make a couple of attempts at a move here. You see him looking to the outside and then sweeping to the bottom. Just got under Zemke before he reached the first dogleg there, and now he's going to take that spot in 1 and 2.
So Majelecki is on the move as he takes away P number 7. He's one of the bigger movers of the race so far, +4 for him. One of the biggest, in fact, the top biggest mover at the moment inside the top half of the field is Dan Mclaren, who is sandwiched now, right? Who is the other end of the sandwich with Zemke in the battle. He's in 9th position, right behind the 21.
Yeah, and he's going to have seen what Majelecki did to pass Zemke there, and he's probably going to try and line up a similar move. You see Zemke's maybe trying to come back a little bit at Majelecki, but I don't see how he's going to be able to pass him now.
We'll see what he can do here. Zemke a bit slower off the corner. McLaren looking to get the run on the bottom side into turn number 3 as just gets the inside away. Able to take it away the Hard Knock Sim Sports machine, but just can't get the run off the corner quite yet. Zemke still able to ramp it off to keep that single file.
Yeah, it looked like McLaren just drove it in just maybe half a car length too deep. Had to pull it up in the center of the corner and lost all the momentum he had on Zemke there. So that was a really good opportunity for McLaren to get through and just not able to take it.
Someone looking to take advantage of this. It's Evan Black, the 92 machine, looking to dive his way to the inside in his Ford Mustang. So the trauma-sponsored car looking to fight inside, outside line McLaren. And you can see how much the side draft affects these cars here, Christian, because they lost 2 car lengths just with that move alone as Black takes away the spot.
Yeah, running side by side, especially on these 1.5 miles, especially somewhere like this where the lane is quite narrow. We've talked a little bit about how bumpy it is. It really does slow you down to be doing it, and you saw there a good example of what happens if you can't complete a pass. McLaren tried the pass on Zemke, wasn't able to complete it, and immediately the next car in line is right on top of him and making a pass on him.
Here's the thing though, with all the passes we've seen and all the drivers getting shuffled to the outside line, as you see McLaren try and duck his way to the inside and forces Black up to the top side. We talked about this. Tire conservation going to be very key for tonight for the long run. And already we've gotten ourselves to lap 15 this time by. That's going to be a potential concern if you've been fighting too aggressively and trying to fight side by side and defend on the top.
Well, that's the other thing as well with the amount of rubber down on the track. The longer the races tend to go, the better the tire wear gets just because there's more rubber on the surface. So you tend to want to go a little bit easier this first round just to avoid running into those issues with tire wear. And obviously if you're fighting a lot to make passes, that's not going to help your situation. The other thing is, every time we get these 2x2 battles, so to speak, it's allowing the guys ahead to pull away. We see Zemke's now got about 3 or 4 car lengths.
Taking a look at this right now through some of the back windshields in terms of the battles. Eventually something's gonna give for some of these cars as they continue to try and fight. Already 70 laps to go for tonight's racing action. 15 laps in as the caution flag is out. Caution flag is out in turn number 1. Steven Durbin among some of the drivers who are in trouble in the corner. It looked like that Colquhoun was sent off into the artificial turf and came back on the racetrack. Take a look at the replay here, and you'll see that 213 right there comes up right in front of Colquhoun.
Yeah, and that's actually something we've even seen in the NASCAR series, that there's a really big bump in that AstroTurf. Everybody thinks that you can just kind of go through it, and you can to a point, but there is a lot of bumps in there, and it just fires you back up onto the racing surface. So unfortunate for the guys around that area that that car just reappeared in front of them, and there's nowhere they can go.
Yeah, take another look how this developed. It looks like contact with the 64 machine. That was Chad Brown who ended up, I think, hitting the wall, it appeared. That sent him off to the artificial turf. We'll see this on the onboard with Chad specifically to see exactly what happened here, but just bad luck there, unfortunately, for the 230.
Yeah, we see Chad looking for a little bit of a pass here and just not quite making the corner and ending up adding this top line.
And you see on the replay that eventually did send the car off to the inside in terms of the battling there with 64. But pit stops are underway, and already all the cars looking to get themselves some fresh Goodyear Eagles and some fuel into the race car.
Yeah, and this is going to be a little bit tight to get fuel to the end here because we're on lap 18 right now. When we go green, it's probably going to be around about 23 or 24, so 61 to 62 lap run. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, I was about to say this is outside the fuel window by 10 laps overall. But already off and away goes everybody on the pit lane in terms of the race up the line. Up at the front, it is Reagan Jr. the first out. Then it's Tellez, Sumner, Hunt, and O'Brien rounding out the 5. So a decent race off pit road and a good race so far, Christian.
Yeah, everybody being really respectful. Obviously, that one incident we had there, but that's a little bit of function of the track rather than anything of the drivers themselves. And yeah, we've seen a lot of passing, a lot of really good side-by-side racing. And something interesting on that pit stop is to see at least 2 drivers out there who took 2 tires. We've got James Duke out there on 2, and we've also got Robert Vito Jr. out there on 2.
That is actually a very curious move with 15 laps. I don't know about that move. What are your thoughts in terms of drivers taking 2 after that many laps?
Yeah, that's a big play for track position, and the only way that's going to work is if you get a yellow within the next 5 to 10 laps. I think if it goes green any longer than that, those drivers are going to be really struggling.
We did have a couple drivers drop to the back that were inside the top 10. Maciejewski amongst those. Josh Coley just ducked down a second time. Already some drivers thinking about big picture here as the lights are out on top of the iRacing official pace car here. In terms of the racing here, what should we expect in terms of off this restart? Should we expect the drivers trying to ride to the bottom side, or do you expect something a bit different because this is a track where there is a restart zone?
I think we'll see what a similar scenario as we saw on the initial start of the race, but just everybody being a little bit more aggressive. Obviously, we saw some drivers really losing out by getting stuck on the top line. They're not going to want to make that same mistake again, so I think we'll see everybody will very, very quickly try and get to the bottom lane.
I think so at this point, too, as the top 10, Tellez, Reagan Jr., Sumner and Hunt, Lane and O'Brien, Black and Zemke, Mclaren and James Duke on 2 tires. Those are the drivers amongst the top 10 positions on the circuit as we get ready for the restart. iRacing official pace car is off. Reagan Jr. is the control car. Off and away it goes. A little bit of tire spin, but he's off and away cleanly regardless as we're back to racing. Lane already ducking to the bottom side, looking to attack Sumner.
Just keeping an eye on that 76 car, James Duke there on the 2 tires. He is in the bottom lane right now, so it'll be interesting to see how people try and get around him. Obviously, the top isn't preferred.
Making the way down the back straightaway, Reagan Jr. trying to block multiple cars. Contact O'Brien. Hit in the back end by Tellez. We keep things straight, however, on the racetrack. That was a close call involving 3rd and 4th position on the track.
Yeah, everybody in that top group all trying to get down to the bottom as quickly as they can and just nearly getting together on the entry to 3 there.
We have one car that's off into the grass. It's Chad Brown. Brown, who was just involved in the last caution flag. Went off in the AstroTurf along with the 07 of Scotty Johnson in 24th and 25th position. We stay green, however, as we continue to see the drivers make their way across the racetrack. Reagan Jr. already in the lead by 2 car lengths. Hunt in 2nd, O'Brien in 3rd. The fight is on, though, for 4th on back.
Yeah, there's a huge fight going on as well around James Duke. He's been shuffled out to the top right now. Brendan Chatley's managed to get underneath him.
See side by sides. Let's go off towards where Duke is on the 2 tires. He's already been shuffled to the top by Brendan Chatley. So Chatley in the rescue racing machine, looking to try and move up. Trying to fall on through is Danny Cervantes. You see him in the 25 machine, looking to get the draft, able to check up a little bit. In fact, Duke is defending this hard on the top side.
Yeah, and Duke's actually holding on to this a lot better than I expected him to. I thought his fall back through the field would have been quite rapid, but he's making him fight for it.
Able to hold on to the top 10 for the time being. That's a +6 for him overall in the race. And it's been a pretty good past couple weeks for James Duke, mind you, in terms of overall racing. Bit of shuffling, though, in the grass. Corey Silva nearly run around, trying to pass McLaren just behind them, and went off into the artificial turf from trying to get down to the bottom side underneath McLaren's fender. McLaren wasn't allowing him to get to the bottom.
Yeah, it looked like McLaren was trying to clear Michael Lordy at the time, but I've seen McLaren's been struggling a little bit. He grabbed the wall off the floor, and it looks like it's slowing him down a lot.
That's a lot of aero damage on that 73 you've seen on the front and back ends. The front end affects speed, and around goes James Duke. Cervantes also around, up to the racetrack he goes. Caution flag is out for the 2nd time tonight. Again, it involved James Duke and Danny Cervantes into the run to turn number 1. And it looked like Duke tried to defend the bottom, similar to what we just seen with Silva just a lap before.
Yeah, it looked like they got together in the 2nd dogleg, but we'll have to check the replay to see for sure. You see Duke's in ahead of him before the 1st dogleg, and then in the 2nd, yeah, Cervantes tries to get underneath him, and I think Duke thought he was at the very bottom of the track, and I kind of feel like he was. It looked like Cervantes was actually on the Astro.
Yeah, it looked like he went down to the AstroTurf. Look at this. Yeah, he did. He did, and puts Duke around along with smacking himself hard into the wall and causing a lot of damage. No one else involved in the caution flag, but just barely as you see him spin up the track.
Yeah, and I think Cervantes came off the worst there, but some heavy damage to the left side of Duke's car as well.
Heavy damage here, but now it's going to make it very interesting because we're at the very, very tip of making it on fuel in terms of the race if we go the full 59 laps to go this time by. Drivers have been with draft in some racing across the iRacing service to make it to 57 to 59 laps. So, most of the drivers pitting, a couple stay out. Evan Black and Corey Silva do stay out. The rest of the field ducks down.
Yeah, and I think that actually does make sense for Corey Silva. I'm not quite so sure on Evan Black. He was in a decent position anyway, but Corey Silva was kind of mired in the mid-pack and wasn't really making much progress forward, so it's definitely a track position play by him.
And Tellez overran his pit box a little bit, had to back up a touch. So that's going to negate the advantage of pit box number 1. Regan Jr. first, Hunt second, O'Brien lane, and Chatley the top 5 off the pit lane. Chatley actually having to let Tellez by. Here's the thing with the advantage of the pit box number 1 of this track here, Christian. You only have to go about 6 feet or so. And that allows you to potentially gain track position if you were the pole sitter.
Yeah, that pit box is definitely an advantage. The cone is so close that the kind of the pit exit, you don't really have to worry about getting up to speed. You just have to worry about moving the car off the stand, and as soon as you do that, then it pretty much gives you the position as you cross the cone.
As we're approaching 1/3 of the way through this race so far, your thoughts on what we've seen action-wise so far and what you would do to make adjustments if you were some of the drivers in the cockpit?
Well, it looks pretty close at the front. We've got a good fight going on between Regan Jr., Rachel Hunt, and we did have Tellez up in that fight as well. He's still there. He's just dropped a couple of spots, so I think with a long run, it'll be interesting to see kind of if there's any spread between those 3 drivers. But kind of further back in the pack, we see a lot of drivers struggling to make progress forwards, and obviously we've seen there's a lot of aggressive passes going on, especially in the quad oval. And I think the biggest thing is just trying to keep yourself out of trouble at this point. And obviously, with it being so close on fuel, it's possible to get to the end, perhaps. And I think if you're in the mid-pack, you might want to just focus on saving your stuff and maybe out driving guys with, say, 15 to 20 to go.
should note that Tellez came down a second time. He is now getting some repairs done, it appears, and getting some fresher tires. He does have a bit of front nose damage, so he is topped off on fuel, it looks like, on the racetrack, and negated the track position after the bad pit stop. So at this point here, gonna be very interesting to see what happens though with that top two, Black and Silva, because they are on older tires. Yes, they're heated up, but how long can they hold on?
Well, that was the thing that we obviously saw the 74 was able to hold on quite a bit longer than I think most of us were expecting. Sorry, the 76 James Duke.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he wasn't on the leader pace. He definitely did have a disadvantage from doing so. So I don't think we're going to see Evan Black and Corey Silva able to break away. And I do think that we're going to see everybody bottled behind them. And that scenario is only going to get worse. I think Regan Jr., he's very aggressive in terms of making his passes. And I don't think he's going to want to sit behind these two for a long time at all.
I think I agree with you in that regard, absolutely, in terms of that. Should note that a lot of the drivers actually took two, including the front runners. Regan Jr., Hunt, O'Brien, Chatley, all on two. Majeweski, 2 tires. Rashad Jr., 2 tires. Josh Coley, we haven't talked too much about him tonight. He's now in 13th position, 2 tires. A lot of the drivers took two because as we only ran a few laps, that does leave the advantage of the left side tires are at least heated up and there's minimal wear on that side of the car.
Yeah, and I think they obviously saw that Duke didn't fall back as quickly as they expected either, so playing that in, playing the less wear as well over the shorter run and the greater track state, I think it does make sense. And obviously, if you see everybody else taking two, you're kind of forced into that scenario. So the first driver we seem to have out there on 4, I believe, is Adam Zemke.
Charles Sumner is also on 4 tires rather, and with Zemke at the moment, they're in about 8th and 9th positions on the racetrack. So this is going to get interesting to see how this start goes. Some drivers may have taken two as well in terms of balance of the race car. We'll see who can take the balance of this race and try and pull away. Evan Black, the control car in the 92 machine, outside Corey Silva in the 94. Off to the starting zone, off and away we go, an early start this time. Black pulls away by a car length and a half as they come across the start and finish line for the third restart of the day.
Yeah, both Silver and Black able to stay ahead of Regan Jr. there, so we're going to see if Regan Jr. has a run into 3. It looks like Sumner's had a little bit of contact, nearly ended up in the outside wall in 2 there.
The 07 machine also dropping back in the back part of the field, so a lot of cars shuffling around. They're 3 wide as Chatley gets contact with Zemke. Majeweski forced his way through to get by Sumner to get to P number 7, a bit of a hornet's nest. In the second grouping, that's lost them some ground to the top 6.
Yeah, a huge fight going back on back here. You see Majeweski, the big benefiter out of that, managed to get to the head of that line.
Yeah, he came up the middle, 3 wide in that position battle, but here comes the 994, that's Lordy. Michael Lordy does have a bit of front end part damage on the karting Orford machine, and looking to try and take the bottom side away. Can't do it quite yet, as they stay single file in that grouping for the time being. Crazy start as back up towards the front of the field, they continue to try and fight, where Regan Jr. looks to try and get around the drivers on the old tires. Black has been shuffled out by Corey Silva, now is trying to play defense as the rest of the drivers look to get the run.
Yeah, and this is the thing for Regan Jr. If he's going to try and make a pass on these guys, he needs to make sure that he actually gets it done, because if he doesn't, he's going to be stuck on the outside with Hunt and James O'Brien underneath him.
And Regan Jr., he's taking the chance on the bottom side of turn 1. Black gives him the space. Regan Jr. up to second spot. Has one more driver on older tires to make the pass on. But the Ford Mustang of Richard Regan Jr. is in second position. The first of the drivers on 2 tires to go through.
So it looks like Corey Silva struggling a little bit, running up wide on the exit of floor. Regan Jr.'s got a good run on him now.
Off into the artificial turf that time, Regan Jr. to set up the bottom side. Side by side with Silva for the race lead. Silva up top, Regan Jr. on the bottom side. Silva with the run down the backstretch. But Regan Jr. the preferred line into turn 3.
And not sure if Silva's able to hold it up there. He's washing up the track.
Still getting a bit tight. Regan Jr. leads it at the stripe this time by. Coming to 50 to go next time. Black trying to help of the 94. He moves his way back to the bottom side. Cuts in front of Rachel Hunt as Regan Jr. rounds his way into the lead once more. Black wants to follow through for second. Can't do so as Silva tries to attack back.
Silva back to the top side, but I don't see how he's going to repass Regan Jr. out there. We haven't seen anybody make any passes on the top as he drags the wall off of 4.
That's going to hurt him. Got some quarter panel damage. Opens up the door for Black, and here comes the rest of the drivers on 2 tires. Rachel Hunt looks to try and move her way up to 3rd. James O'Brien also falls behind in the draft of the 16.
Hunt on the bottom and Silva on the top again in 3 and 4.
And Silva's going to have to deal with a bit of looseness since he crushed in that right rear quarter panel a little bit. Already, Hunt coming across the stripe, scored in 3rd position. Silva really bobbling around that time to the quad.
Yeah, he looks like he's really struggling, and his big advantage was that he was able to carry speed off the corner, but now with some right side damage and hence some aero damage, he's not going to have that straight line advantage anymore.
Yeah, absolutely at this point, and it's going to affect the corners overall. 2 off the exits already. Silva trying to defend now. James O'Brien. O'Brien giving him a bump draft as you follow along with the 60 machine. This is Colton Lane. O'Brien moves his way to the bottom side. Lane looks to fall through, trying to ride the blue line. They do for the battle for now 5th position.
And we haven't spoken much about Lane, but he's moving himself up into this fight, and he hasn't had to run as hard as the rest of this group, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out if this goes to a long run.
4th is O'Brien, 5th still is Silva, but Lane has the draft. 46 to go this time by at the stripe for the drivers. And the old tires of Silva drop back, but Evan Black's done a good job holding on to 2nd, mind you, as this is all shaped out. He's lost a bit of ground, 4/10 to the race leader, but now has lost the bottom, this time to Rachel Hunt. Hunt takes it away on the inside line. It's Rachel Hunt.
Yeah, it looked like he just grabbed the apron a little bit in 1 and 2, and that caused him to bobble and then gave Hunt a run down into turn 3.
And O'Brien wants the top 3 back. Riding the bottom still Rachel Hunt. Moves right on by. At this point, what are you thinking if you're on some of these old tires? Because now it seems they are starting to not equalize, but more so lose speed. It's not gone the way they've hoped so far.
Well, I'm thinking if I'm Evan Black, I'm really surprised that I'm actually still in the position I am. Being 3rd after a relatively long run already is quite surprising, especially having taken no tires at all. And I think if you're somebody like James O'Brien or Rachel Hunt, you're probably surprised it's taking you that long to clear those cars.
Yeah, Rachel Hunt now 8.85 behind the race lead. As you look in the back windshield, Evan Black already losing 2 car lengths. Corey Silva, in comparison's sake, is in 9th position, has just been passed by Lordy and Charles Sumner this past time by. Look, however, who's looking to move himself into the top 10. Josh Colley is just outside the picture as you look at the battles for these positions. Let's take a look at Colley. Has a whole fan club watching along tonight. Looks to move to the top 10 for the first time tonight in the 3.
Yeah, and he's having a great race. He started in 25th, so to be up on the fringes of the top 10 already is a really good showing by him.
This is one of the best races he's had this season. They do have traffic to go through, Colley and Cole, because Cervantes is that car you see on the outside line right now. So all the drivers trying to get to the bottom to get around the 25. Lap traffic management could be something that pops up if we get a long run for this race. Not so much in terms of this run outside of the 25. Danny Cervantes being very cordial, letting drivers go on the inside.
Yeah, one driver I'm surprised about actually is Zamke. We see him just ahead of Josh Colley here, but Zamke on those 4 tires and isn't really able to do a lot with them.
I think the tires might have equalized very quickly for Zemke maybe, because it only would have been maybe one percentage point on the tires if you took 2 on the left side for comparison.
Yeah, and it definitely looked like having 4 wasn't necessarily the way to go at the very beginning of the run either. It looked like those cars took a little bit longer to get going, and now, like you say, it looks like they've equalized out, and the decision hasn't worked for them. They've not gone anywhere from where they started the run.
Yeah, Charles Sumner, in fact, also still amongst the drivers that have not gained too many spots off the start. It's still in 7th. Lordy, also on 4 tires, is in 8th position. But the fight is building up for 3rd on back, because Evan Black, he's got a hornet's nest of drivers wanting to make the move. O'Brien, Lane, and don't forget Brandon Maciejewski, who's now inside the top 6. All want to go, it looks like.
Yeah, and this is the thing. They're seeing the top two are running in 30.1s, and then Evan Black, the lap previous was a 30.3. The last lap, though, was a 30.2. So he's about 10th off the leader pace, and everybody behind wants to go.
O'Brien got to the inside, had to check up, though. Black squeezes a little bit. Bit of a bobble, though, off the corner. The bottom of the quad oval left open by Black. O'Brien getting some help from Colton Lane on the entry to turn 1. O'Brien looking to push up, but just a touch that time to try and get Black singled out. Now they're side by side, 2 rows deep.
Yeah, and these guys have got to be careful here, because Maciejewski might actually be able to make something happen on this top line. We see him side by side with Lane. He's obviously got Black in front of him, so he can't really make anything happen right now. But if he can push Black far enough, he's going for 3 wide in the quad oval, maybe.
A little bit dicey. We did see that in the 2019 Coca-Cola 600 multiple rows deep with 12 cars in a blanket. But Maciejewski now makes his way to the bottom side as Black loses speed on the top side. Now side by side with Lane. O'Brien is now in 3rd position, so 4 tires continue to drop back in this field in the 92 machine. A bad run, getting tight in fact off of 4.
Yeah, and he got lucky there that Maciejewski actually was just slightly too far up the track and got tight as well, so here having to fall in behind, and it's actually allowed Lane and O'Brien to get a little bit of a gap.
This is going to open up more drivers. Let's take a look on board for Maciejewski at the moment. See some of the difference in speed as well. Has a little bit of damage note. You can see that little bit pushed up hood on the right side, but the tire advantage still allows him to get the grip to the bottom side, and he's got the help of the drivers on 4 tires right behind him to give a push a little bit from behind. Up into the top 5, Brandon Maciejewski, with Sumner looking to fight for 6th position.
Yeah, Sumner the first driver on those 4 tires, and it still doesn't really look like they're giving a big advantage over 2 tires, but maybe as the run goes on, it's actually going to start making more of a difference.
Potentially, absolutely, as Black is definitely falling on through. But take a look who's at the back end of that train of drivers in the 10th position. That's Keith Haney at the moment in the 87 machine. He started 21 positions back in the field. He's right now in that blue, black, and silverish Ford Mustang working with Cully. He's charged his way through the field in an efficient manner. He is also on 4 tires.
Yeah, and he's our biggest mover of the night, up 21 spots. He's about to get another one as Evan Black still struggling out there on that top lane, pushing Cully forwards now as well.
It's been a stellar run from him tonight, the Georgia Club driver. So he continues to fall on a plus 22, a plus 17 for Cully up in front of him as Black continues to drop back. For Corey Silva, mind you, too, you may wonder where he's at. He's all the way back in 18th position for comparison's sake, Christian. That's how much this gamble did not pay off for those drivers.
Yeah, and it looked like it was working out relatively well for Evan Black, but obviously as the run's gone on, it's just gotten worse and worse for him. It looks like he's just really struggling with a tight car right now, and I think Corey Silva made his situation a little bit worse by dragging the car along the wall, and that's why he fell back quicker.
Coming to 32 laps to go this time, and a lot of the drivers at this point looking like they're just getting into a rhythm right now. The fastest car right now, Regan Jr., in the lead by 1.13 seconds over Rachel Hunt. However, Hunt does have a touch bit of the draft from behind, and is a little bit quicker each time by, but not close enough to break up what has been described as the bubble. There's a bit of a bubble in terms of once you get the draft together, after a few tenths are picked up, it's hard to close it back up. Rachel Hunt very much is trying to hold on to the draft and then has to potentially deal with the bubble.
Yeah, and that's actually a scenario that just gets worse and worse the longer the run goes. You start struggling more and more. You get less tire grip, so you're more reliant on the aero grip you have. So obviously the closer you are and the more you're affected by the wake of the car ahead of you. Yes, you get that advantage of straightaway speed in terms of the draft, but you lose a lot of corner speed with the push.
Yeah, because with that push, you have to get off the gas, right? With Richard Regan Jr., he can go essentially full throttle up in the clean air at the moment.
Regan Jr. is in the best position right now. He has the lead. He's getting a bigger advantage. Even though he's not getting a larger advantage in terms of time, he's staying about a second in the lead. But as the run goes on, the advantage of being the leader only gets greater. It doesn't diminish. So the longer he stays there, the better it's looking for him.
Rachel Hunt trying to close in the gap as much as she can at the moment. Has gotten to under a second behind them. O'Brien is in third. Lane also lined up. Right now they are about in the same ballpark in terms of time. Slade and Zemke, meanwhile, are starting to fight, as they are right now seeing a bit of shuffling. Zemke forced up to the top. On the bottom, Slade follows through along with Thomas Morris as well as Jake Honcho. We haven't talked much about the two machine, looking to also follow through on the bottom side to try and take advantage of the situation.
Yeah, and here we got a scenario where everybody is kind of stacked up, and now the 21's just stuck up there. He's not going to have an opening until maybe even the 97 gets there, so he's going to lose up to 3 positions here very quickly.
Yeah, and you can see how much that top line hurts you once that right front starts to wear. You push up the track on the apex, and then you have to get off the gas, and that's where everyone on the bottom side just gets that run. Zemke blocking his way to the bottom side this time to stop the bleeding run of Bichot Jr. But that lost Zemke a lot of time on the circuit, to say the very least here, with 27 laps to go outside the top 10 now. These drivers at the moment about 5 seconds behind the race leader and working their way through traffic.
And the guy that I'm keeping an eye on is Keith Haney. He's actually up to 6th spot now, and he's still continuing to make gains. He's the fastest driver out there, 30.76 last time by, lead around 30.83, so he's definitely got a lot of pace.
And let's take a look at these drivers run on the racetrack. We'll see if we can get a time comparison to see how this has been going so far. Compare those race leaders. You can see that comparison on the bottom side of your screen. The pace has been looking pretty efficient for Haney so far tonight. He's been cutting his way through the field at plus 25, and the pace is shown already closing a car length on Majelecki down the back straightaway.
Yeah, and we can see it looks like the way he's doing it is just keeping his car pinned down to that blue line better than everybody else. I've been watching Majelecki, and it looked like he was struggling to stay right on the bottom in 3 and 4, and right there we just saw he pushed up a little bit, and Haney just drove straight underneath him.
Do you think he was saving tires at the start of this run, the way he's driving and holding that blue line compared to the others?
Well, he definitely looks like he's got a better balance in the car than everybody else, and with it being fixed setup, the only way you can achieve that is by saving a little bit of right front. And the question is, how's he been able to do this? Because he looks like he's constantly made progress throughout this run, yet he's not showing any signs of drop-off.
Yeah, this has been a stellar run. Already a 10th quicker than every single driver up in front of him last time by. So Haney is flying on the track, coming to 23 laps to go. The thing is there going to be enough time to say catch the leader? He's 2.5 seconds behind in closing.
And that is a big gap to run down. Obviously, he's still got 3 more cars to pass before he even gets into the passing the leader. So it's really a case of how quickly can he pass those other cars while still gaining ground on Regan Jr. And like you say, is there actually enough laps to do it? Does he have enough tire left to do it? Because we're saying he looks like he's running really good and he's able to hold the bottom better than everybody else, but you're running faster than everybody. You're taking something out of something, you know? Like, you're not getting anything for free here.
Yeah, that's actually a good way of putting that there, Christian. Absolutely. By the way, as you take a look at second spot, the gap is down to about still 7/10, but Rachel has not been able to close that for the past couple laps or so. If anything, has started to get a bit of the aero push. That time, not as good of a run off of turn 2. Regan Jr. trying to keep this clean air advantage. O'Brien, though, has been closing as this has gone around. Last time by, gained a 10th on Rachel Hunt.
Yeah, we see that those two drivers, the first and second positions there, both in the 31 flats, 30.9s for the next two cars behind, and then Keith Haney still in the 30.8s, the only driver out there except for Thomas Morris in the 30.8.
Flying along with O'Brien at the moment, working with Richard Regan Jr. this season in the road trip transport machine. Remember, did get that contact at the back end, but hasn't been affecting him aerodynamically, it looks like, tonight. But looks like now O'Brien's entered that bubble we were talking about, because it is about 3/10. Lost 7/1000ths of a second last time by. Just cannot close it up quite yet.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big factor here for all these cars in this lead group. You see they're all separated by roughly the same distance. Regan Jr. a little bit further ahead, but then behind the gaps are pretty uniform. The only one making big progress is Haney, and it's going to be interesting to see if he can actually cut through the bubble.
There was some near trouble, meanwhile, in the 20s. Costello and McLaren just made contact. Should note McLaren had been in the pit lane for a couple laps, is on different tires in 28th position, and is cutting through the field at the moment in the 30s. In the 30 flat specifically. As we'll take a look towards Haney at the moment, because Haney still cutting his way up in terms of time. 30.8, everyone else in the entire field on the same tire window in the 30 flats. The 87, however, is going to be challenged though to try and make these passes without burning up the tires.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some incredible pace right now, but it all comes down to how quickly can he clear his way through this group. And I think at this rate, he has to be looking at clearing every car in at least 3 laps. I think if he takes longer than 3 laps, he's not got a chance at the win.
Regan Jr. has been falling off by about a 10th a lap now compared to the rest of the top 5. But he still has the clean air advantage. Down to under half a second the advantage for the lead. Haney trying to bank it off the corner to get the run to the bottom side. Colton Lane looking to try and play defense now for 4th position. Will he try and go for the block? No. Haney gets the bottom side. A little bit of the apron was gone in there that time on the diamond effect, but Lane still holds on to 4th position regardless for the time being.
Yeah, Lane ran him really tight there, just didn't let Haney get a run off of 4, and smart position by Lane on the entry to the corner there to stop Haney from just simply driving underneath him.
See Lane taking the middle line this time by, gonna make Haney work for it. Haney giving the love tap this time off into the corner. It's good to them. They've already lost themselves about a 10th or 2 in this fight, but you see the difference in grip. Lane up the track, Haney to the bottom side takes away 4th position. But they lost a little bit of time in all that shuffling. Now it's about a half a second to James O'Brien. The gap for the lead, meanwhile, is down to about 2/10.
And looks like Regan's starting to struggle now. And we see Hunt's maybe got through that bubble, only 2/10 behind.
Hunt popping that bubble in terms of the aerodynamics. And at this point, you have to wonder if Regan Jr. might have pushed a little bit too hard in the clean air, because there is a bit of that balance you mentioned. Might have overturned that balance a little bit too hard, trying to take advantage of the full throttle in the clean air, maybe, do you think?
Well, this was what I was mentioning earlier about you don't necessarily want to jump way out into the lead. You want to be in the lead, but you don't want to try and build a gap, because you're taking life out of the tire to do so. And we saw he pulled out about a 1.5 second lead, and obviously now at this point he's starting to pay the price for it, and we actually see a couple other drivers starting to pay as well. Colton Lane's now fallen off of the back of this top 4.
Fell off 3/10 last time by. As this closes down, P10 has also been heating up. Take a look at how crazy it's been getting, because Honcho, Morris, and Bishot Jr. amongst the fighters. We also have Majelecki being battled right up in front of them by Lordy this time into turn number 3 for P8. So multiple battles are shuffling around on the racetrack. Lordy trying to slide up. Majaleski gets a bit of contact on the left front. He'll have to back off the gas as Honcho takes advantage, and so...
Yeah, and this is where we're really starting to see the drivers that were making a lot of moves at the start of the run. They're starting to pay the price now. Majewski, one of them, we saw him go forwards very, very quickly, and now he's starting to fall backwards.
And remember, we were close on fuel. That's something we haven't talked about since the pit stopped. It could be tight for a couple of drivers. The 77 of Daniels did hit this time by in 19th position. No one else has made that type of move amongst the top 20 so far. So that's another thing to keep in mind as you follow along with Majaleski as he falls on behind Thomas Morris. That's for 11th position on the track. But O'Brien and Hunt starting to heat up for 2nd position, and Haney has closed them in as well.
Now the big question is, does Haney have the fuel? Obviously we've seen that he's had the pace, but as you mentioned, if everybody up here was saving and he wasn't, there's a potential that he's actually not safe on fuel, and they are.
It's very much towards the edge of the bubble, mind you. We did see it, Tellez, as well as one other car top off. So we'll see what they can do here. A lot of the drivers, though, should be good with the draft. Regan Jr., he's been in clean air much of this run. Rachel Hunt lifts off the gas this time as O'Brien tries to go up. Hunt with the big block on the bottom side. 9 laps to go this time by.
Brian making a play for the top there, and Haney slotting underneath him in a 1.
Haney, can he complete the pass? Side by side down the back straightaway. Will Rachel Hunt try and pull the draft? She does on O'Brien's car. O'Brien with the squeeze. Haney tries to burp the throttle. O'Brien pushes up the hill. Haney up to 3rd position. That's a plus 28 now for the 87 car.
And Haney's just so good in 3 and 4. He's able to carry so much more speed off the exit of the turn than everybody else.
And that Third Rock Racing machine now looks to attack for 2nd. Hunt blocking the middle line. Haney bump drafts into the corner. Last time Haney did that, the driver in front pushed up the hill. Hunt a little bit more stable this time, coming to 7 to go. Able to run into the artificial turf that time along the Toyota logos to block the bottom.
And Haney making a play on the top. We've not seen him try a pass there yet, but obviously as he got further forward, they're getting harder to pass, but he's got a good run on the exit of 2. He's going to be there in the 3.
Haney cutting his way up through the pack. On the bottom side. Into 2nd he goes. Yes, indeed. Rachel Hunt drops to 3rd. And now it gets interesting. 6 to go. Regan Jr. now might have to play significant defense. Haney's still the fastest car on the track. Both him and Regan Jr. were in the 31.2s last time by.
Yeah, and I said that he was going to have to clear cars at a rate of maybe 1 per 3 laps, and he's done that. He's now got 6 laps to make some moves on Regan Jr. Probably going to be 5 by the time he gets there, but this is definitely on. If he can get alongside him, I think he can pull the pass off.
Coming off the corner, Regan Jr. pushes up. Haney gets the run. 5 to go this time. Haney takes it to the top side. Side by side into turn 1. Haney tries to time in the corner. Regan Jr. rides the bottom. Near contact as Haney has to burp the throttle as Regan Jr. goes for the block.
Yeah, Regan Jr. smart there. He covered off the bottom and all the way to the exit of the corner, so Haney wasn't able to duck under him like he has everybody else. Trying it again in 3 and 4, but Haney's pushing him up a little bit. He's going to be there.
Haney side by side, 4 to go. Can he make the pass? Can he make it stick? Regan Jr. up top. Haney to the race lead all the way. 30 positions through the field from 31st to 1st in the course of 82 laps. 3 to go this time by. A stellar drive by Keith Haney. Now it's the matter of completing the job.
Yeah, and if he's good on fuel, I don't see how there's any chance he's going to get repassed, but a big battle for second. What's going around?
Hunt sent off into the infield. Slides in the middle of the quad oval. We stay green as she stabilizes it up at the front. Haney pulls away by half a second and more so over the points leader Regan Jr. Now it's the matter of trying to hope it stays green with 2 to go this time by.
And it's an amazing job by Haney to just do that. We've seen Regan Jr. and Hunt both really be dominant in this league, and to come in and start at the back in 31st, drive all the way to the lead, that's pretty incredible. We've not seen that yet.
2 to go. 3 miles to go to complete the job. Sumner and Lane continue to fight. This is for 4th position. O'Brien lost 2 seconds with that contact. He's also in front of them for 3rd position. As they come to the white flag this time by, points still on the line. Coming off the corner, crashes, the white flag comes and the caution flag is out. The one involved with James Duke, and this will trigger a green-white checkered finish. My goodness.
The yellow must have come out right before Haney got the white flag because he was so close to the line.
That was just a few feet away from the white flag for the race to be official. Let's take a look. This was lap traffic between 1st and 2nd place, mind you. This nearly collected Regan Jr. in the process. Take a look at how close this was, Christian, because this could have been a lot of points out the window.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Obviously, he wasn't going to beat Haney for the race win, but man, it could have been so much worse for him. We saw Hunt obviously go through the grass, lose a ton of track position. If Regan had been involved in that, the same thing would have happened to him, and he'd be back there with Hunt in terms of points as well.
And this is huge for drivers like Rachel Hunt, who lost a lot of time all the way back down the field, but this is going to get interesting. This is what happened with Rachel Hunt, mind you. Just after the pass for the lead, O'Brien is the driver who makes contact as they got a little bit tight off the corner, O'Brien did.
Yeah, it looked like it all started with Regan Jr. running quite high off the exit, and I think he checked up as well, and then that just caused a stack-up effect behind.
And all of this happening, mind you, with this caution flag, Christian, just changed the whole race because multiple drivers have taken 2 tires or stayed out on the track. This is going to change everything and then some. Robert Bichon Jr. is now the leader. Telez is in 2nd. Hunt stayed out. So did Williams the 2nd. Wilson Jr., Zemke, Chad Brown all stayed out. Charles Sumner was able to get by Haney on 2 tires. The rest of the field, except for Melican, took 4 tires. So now, this is going to get crazy. There is only 1 green-white checkered attempt.
Yeah, and that's disastrous for Haney. He clearly had the win sewn up. He was coming to the white flag. He was under no threat whatsoever. And now, if the scoring's right, he's going to be back in the mid-pack, maybe anywhere between 15th and 20th position.
Yeah, and there's a saying that was given by Joe Peak where earlier today, a part of a Big C's MX5 broadcast, where you don't want to panic and stay calm. This is a tough situation because now you have multiple drivers on very, very old tires, 50-plus lap tires in front. You've got drivers on 50-lap differences of tires in Sumner, for example.
Well, this is where it just becomes it's a case of who can find an opening.
Yeah, at this point, what do you do? Because this is going to be crazy.
The only thing you can do in this scenario is if there's an open lane, you just have to go to it. It doesn't matter whether it's the bottom, the top, the middle. In some cases, you might even be able to make it work on the apron. It's your only opportunity, especially if you're someone like Haney. He hasn't cycled out as bad as I thought he would have done. He's 9th. He's got Sumner in 8th. So Haney's got the preference in terms of line because he's going to be on the bottom. But all those cars in front of him, they're on so old tires. I don't think it's going to matter the first lap, but I think when you get to the second lap and they get to turn 1, they're all going to push up the racetrack.
Yeah, that's what my first thought was. They're going to be very tight. We've seen how tight some of the drivers are. In terms of how tight, in terms of grip. This is going to get very crazy. We're expecting to get the one to go signal this time by. At this point, what else can you say at this point, Christian? Because this is going to be huge.
Yeah, there's no way to predict who's going to win this from here. But one person that this has given a serious lifeline to is Rachel Hunt. She stayed out, but it's going to be restarting 5th, obviously on those very, very old tires. But given where she was before the yellow, it's her best result, her best opportunity of salvaging a good result.
We'll see who can come away with the victory. It has the potential to be one of the crazier finishes this season so far. Bashad Jr. is the first driver. Tellez is in second. Third is Williams the second. Fourth, Wilson Jr., Hunt and Zemke round out the top 6. Chad Brown, Charles Sumner, Keith Haney, James O'Brien in the top 10. The first drivers on fresh tires, 4 specifically, are in 9th and 10th. First driver on 2 tires that are fresh is in 8th. Everybody else did stay out after that 50-plus lap run. So buckle up your seatbelts. This is going to be a wild ride.
And the other thing is, this is going to be the only attempt at a green-white checkered as well. So if the yellow comes out, that will be the end of the race.
We'll see if we can get to the checkered or if we get the caution flag. Once again, keep an eye on how they start this. Wheel spin, a very likely possibility. Bashad Jr. able to avoid it. So does Tellez as the green flag comes out. 2 laps to go from Charlotte. 3 miles remaining.
A really good job. Everybody got away. No wheel spin. The lines are quite separated at the moment.
Top 2 got a huge jump. O'Brien already cutting his way up to the field. Everyone trying to dart their way to any line they can. They're 2 and 3 wide down the backstretch.
See Haney on the bottom, Cully on the top. Everybody on the old tires pushing up the racetrack. Huge runs for Haney and Cully.
Bit of a bobble for Bashad Jr., but the white flag is out. Race is official. Who will take home the checker flag? 1.5 miles left to go from Charlotte. Tellez is the leader. Second, Williams the second. First driver on 4 fresh tires is O'Brien. Tellez looking to come away with the miracle. As the 4-tire drivers are stacking up for 4th position. Can Tellez hold on?
There's no opening for the 4-tire drivers. Haney in the middle with 3 wide. Just survived.
Jose Tellez takes home the checker flag. He wins it in a miracle at Charlotte. Second, Paul Williams the second. James O'Brien, the first driver on fresh tires, gets to 3rd. Haney comes home in 4th. Sumner rounds out the top 5. What a way to finish this race.
I don't think either of us would have predicted that Jose Tellez was going to win this race with 5 to go.
The pole sitter is able to come away with it. He went into the 20s at one point after topping off in a second pit stop. Instead, he now comes away with the checker flag tonight. What a way to finish things at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and what a way to get to the halfway point of the season. Jose Tellez, your 4th winner in 5 races so far in the first season of 2020's calendar year. With that, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, well, for post-race coverage, you're watching the PRL Cup Series live from Charlotte Motor Speedway, sponsored by Diecast Kings. Welcome back, everyone, to the Global SimRacing Channel's coverage of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, sponsored by Diecast Kings. It was a crazy way to end things off for the first half of the season, but a driver that looked like he had good speed at the start, had a rough middle portion, able to stay out and hold on to the win. It's Jose Tellez, your fourth winner in 5 races to start the season. Paul Williams II came home in P2. He started in 27th and was trying to fight hard for that race victory on the old tires. James O'Brien's in 3rd, the first driver on fresh tires. Those 3 drivers will be standing by with us in the next few moments. Keith Haney had the drive of the race, was about 15 feet away from the white flag and the race being official before 2 drivers triggered a caution flag. He finishes in 4th, still a stellar drive, a plus 27 on the night. Charles Sumner finished in 5th, Richard Regan Jr. in 6th with Colton Lane, Josh Coley, Robert Bichon Jr., and David Wilson Jr. rounding out your top 10.
Then in 11th, we had Thomas Morris. He had a pretty good night, came home plus 4 from the 15th place start. Brandon Maciejewski started in 11th place, made his way forwards pretty quickly, but just faded that last run, came home in 12th. Michael Lordy in 13th with Jake Honschel in 14th. Stephen P. Durbin, we didn't speak much about him, but he comes home in 15th tonight with Josh Slade alongside him in 16th. Rachel Hunt in the fight for the win the whole race until that unfortunate incident near the end. Made a gamble but didn't pay off, comes home in 17th alongside Robert Melican in 18th with Chad Brown and Adam Zemke in 19th and 20th.
Chatley came home in 21st position, 2.9 seconds behind the checker flag. Scotty Johnson, the last driver on the lead lap. Costello came home 23rd, the first driver 1 lap down. Joshua Daniels did pit with about under 10 to go in the 77, finishes 24th. Dan McLaren 2 laps down in 25th. James Duke was involved in the caution flag with Talon. That brought out the caution in the GWC. He finished 26th. Danny Cervantes wedged between him and Talon in 27th and 28th. Corey Silva 29th, 12 laps down. Evan Black finished 28 laps down in the DNL. Pat Harvey and Horatio Colquhoun round out the 32 drivers who were part of tonight's action from Charlotte Motor Speedway. But it was a stellar race tonight, and the man who comes away with the W is Jose Tellez. My goodness, I don't think this is the way anyone expected to see you come home with your first victory of the season, but how does it feel to be a winner in 2020 in a PRL Cup Series?
Oh, it feels great. Long time coming. I didn't think I was going to win either, but this is awesome. Whew.
In terms of that call, what came down to that decision to stay out there on 50-ish lap old tires to try and hold on for the win?
Well, when we started in the back earlier from the last pit stop, I did some tire management, driving to the field, taking my time. And then about halfway when I spoke to Paul and we were thinking this is going to go green, we just started driving faster. But we took care of our tires. And then when we saw people coming in, I told Paul to stay out. We stayed out. Me and him talked about it. And then when B saw on the outside, I took care of my tires better. I figured this would be easier for me to pass him on the outside on the long run. Woo.
A woo indeed. I can tell you're absolutely pumped up after that one. But my goodness, what a way to try and come away with a victory today. How would you describe your first half of the season as we get ready for the second half next week?
Overall, it's been bumpy. A couple highs, a couple lows. Getting used to racing against the guys. They're all very competitive. Just trying to be as competitive. Race everybody hard, race everybody clean. So, I mean, this shows I've gotten a little better, especially running up there with such old tires. So it's just going to keep the same momentum into the next part of the season.
Next part of the season starts at Pocono. Your thoughts on Pocono Raceway?
Well, that's going to be fun. I love Pocono. I love the high speeds. Hopefully, we all competitively have a good, strong field. It should be fun.
Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you get going?
Yeah, I want to thank you guys, GSRC. I always watch the broadcast after the races. Great stuff. I want to thank Diecast Kings for sponsoring the season. Everybody, if you want a diecast car, go to diecastkings.com for NHRA, NASCAR, or IndyCar series, whichever one you like. Man, I want to thank PRL for setting it all up and having a real fun league.
Congratulations on the victory tonight. You're the fourth winner in 5 races. Congratulations once again to Jose Tellez tonight. Standing by with the second place finisher, Christian Chowder, is with Paul Williams II, who also made that call.
Paul, what a call there at the end to come home on that last restart. We saw it worked out for yourself and Jose. Didn't work out so great for the others, but what led you to making that decision? I mean, plus 25, started 27.
Well, we opted, well, at least I opted not to qualify for this race, just with the package and just how tough things have been here recently. Just kind of hung around in the back for a while and tried to be patient. But I think what the difference maker was and what played into our strategy was that final caution. Before our long run, could have restarted 15th, and we were able to tell by where we came out, because we only took 2 tires there, that everybody else did the same. So then we said, you know what? Let's do something different. So we both came back down, or I came back down pit road again, sacrificed that track position and put 4 tires on, and then we just drove easy. And we figured at that point, if anybody else stayed out with us, that would give us a cushion. If they did, we had 4 tires, and we knew that they would only have 2, and it just played into our favor. So hate it for the guys that were running really well, but I've been on the other end of that too. So just happy that Josue got the win, and we were able to bring 24/7 home 1-2.
Yeah, well, that was obviously a really long play there. We did see Jose come down and take more service. We didn't actually know he was taking another set of tires, and it was something that went through my mind at the time as to that was a lot of track position to give up, and it kind of only looked like it was going to work if we had the exact scenario that we did. So some good foresight by you guys to plan for that. And obviously it worked out. You came home with a 1-2. And now, obviously, it's a good result. It looked like it was really difficult to pass out there. Was that also kind of a factor as well, that you thought that if enough guys stayed out, that it would be really hard for anybody to move their way forwards if they did have tires?
It really was. And I mean, I hate having to make, crazy calls like that, but we've just had some challenges here. And unfortunately, it just puts us in a position where, you lose a little bit of confidence in running up front and qualifying and being in a pack with people. So then you got to try to get creative and do things different. And, it's just when some of those things resolve themselves and go away, then some of these things will, as well. But it's just kind of the nature of the beast. It's, it's not unique to this. It's not unique to iRacing, this league, or real racing. I mean, strategy is a part of it, and we just had the right one tonight. Almost didn't, but we did.
Well, it definitely played off. And going into Pocono next week, another track that's kind of known for crazy restarts. What are your feelings about that race? And are you going to kind of plan a similar strategy of just really sort of be pointing the long game?
I think so. Not really. I like Pocono, the uniqueness of Pocono. I don't like racing Pocono. Just never been a strong track for me. So likely to see a conservative effort from me there. I mean, I knew I could contend. Here, Pocono, we'll see. That might just be a kind of ride out and take whatever we can get type of race for me anyway.
Sounds like a good plan. Now, before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out or a thanks to?
Yeah, absolutely. Diecast Kings, they came on board for the PRL, and they're sponsoring our series and our cars, and it's just really, really cool to have them. So Hope and CJ, another good finish for you back-to-back after the trucks. Thanks very much. We hope to see you back here. And, of course, you guys put on an awesome broadcast, and the admins, Charles, Brad, Colton, everybody that contributes and does their small part to make this league run as well as it does. It doesn't go, unappreciated. So thanks to everybody.
All right. Well, thank you for coming and talking to us, and good luck for next race at Pocono.
Appreciate it.
That was Paul Williams II coming home in P2 tonight. The man who came home in third was the first driver on fresh tires on the green-white checker, James O'Brien. Now joins us here in the GSRC broadcast booth. James, what a crazy way to finish off this race. Your thoughts here?
I wasn't a fan of it just because I was just settled in for most of that last stint there, and I was like, hey, I mean, if this is how we finish, this is how we finish. And obviously I should have Rachel in front of me, and I got together with her coming out of 4. She got really tight, and I got tight, and I was trying to make it a run on her, and I felt super bad about spinning her out coming off 4 there. So I wish she finished better. But yeah, I kind of like crazy restarts like that, but not when it comes down to a win. Um, I do pretty well going through traffic sometimes, and I mean, since it was the last lap, I put myself into a few risky situations, going 3 wide, and had to use the bumper a little bit. And the top line actually worked for a little while until all the cars with old tires started sliding up in front of me, and then I had to cross over. One more lap, I think I would have had the win, but I mean, that's what racing is. It's just strategy, and those 2 drivers ahead of me were smart. I didn't think I would have wanted to risk that at all, especially with how crazy restarts can be.
Yeah, that was a crazy one with the 3 wide, and surprised to see how clean some of the driving was to get to the finish line with all the tires there. But as well, how would you describe in terms of trying to keep the tires in a good situation throughout the entire race today? Because we've seen how good Haney was on the long run. We've seen how drivers were struggling on the long run, in some cases pushing up the hill on the corner exits. How did you try and conserve your equipment to get yourself the best of runs before that GWC?
Well, the last run, we all took 2 tires up front, and I knew obviously a lot of people were going to take 4 behind me, and Haney started coming through real late, but I know I was catching second and first slowly, and I just tried to keep smooth, try to brake where I use, or not brake, but lift where I normally lift, and just slowly back the car out every turn, a little bit less, and just I don't know, hit your marks, and it was working. And I know he was coming up through the field. I started noticing him coming up, and I was like, okay, well, 4th place is 4th place. This is just where it's going to be. I don't know if the guys ahead of me could have finished on fuel or not, but that's also strategy. You just race to be as well as you finish as well as you can. But I was just trying to be gentle with the car, even with 2 tires.
Actually, that's a great point to actually bring up there. How were you looking at the fuel? Because it was right at the very tip of the fuel window when we had the previous pit stops under caution.
I know I would have made it. I don't know if Richard was, and I don't know if Rachel was, but I was like 4 or 5 laps to the good. I was thinking about staying out too, but like I said before, I don't think I had enough. I don't think I was brave enough to do that.
Now, of course, this finishes off the first half of the season for the first run through 2020. How would you describe your season overall in a nutshell?
Well, I failed to qualify my first race, or my favorite track at Watkins Glen. I ran out of time, so that put me back and made a big pit error there. And other than Chicagoland, I haven't really had a good race. At Bristol, I'm pretty good at, and made a pretty novice mistake there too. I don't usually do that. What was the other race? I forgot. Michigan. Just kind of finished pretty well there. I mean, I got wrecked at the end, just coming to the green or coming to the checkered. Kind of wish that didn't happen, but I still finished decent. I just needed to fix all my mistakes. I was at Rolex 24 all night and all day today, so I'm pretty tired, but I tried to work through it as well as I could.
Glad to hear that you're at the Rolex 24. Hopefully you enjoyed the action. But next week's action goes to Pocono. Real quick, your thought.
One of my favorite tracks, so hopefully I'll do well there too. This new package I'm not very fond of, just because it gives some drivers confidence to drive harder than they should. I wish the car was a lot looser, so if you did make an error, you can feel the car sliding and all that. So I know the Kurt racing is going to be crazy there next week too. It should be a good show.
Anyone you want to thank before we let you get going?
Yeah, you guys and Diecast Kings and PRL and my teammates. We are all trying to strategize together. Hopefully next week it'll be a cleaner finish, but maybe just as exciting.
Thank you very much for the time, James. Congratulations on the top 3.
Thank you.
That's James O'Brien coming home 3rd tonight. He started in 6th. Christian Challenger is now standing by with the driver that came in tonight with the points lead in a 6th place finish. It's Richard Regan Jr. Christian.
Richard, I feel like we've maybe had this conversation before. Led a lot of the race, a yellow at the end, and then having to fight back through on a restart, but came home 6th. All things considered, must be relatively happy with that.
Yeah, I'll take it. When we had that pit stop on that before that long run, we all took 2 tires, which was pretty good. The car felt good for a little bit, and then when I started pulling away, I was able to flat foot a lot more, and then I was like, oh crap, I gotta start saving fuel. And then the car got tight, and then once I don't know his number, once he got to me, he didn't take him much time to pass me. But when the caution came out, I was barely good on fuel. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to make it. So the caution kind of helped me there. Even though I went from finishing second to sixth, I still could have ran out of fuel and finished, who knows, like eighth.
Well, that was something that we were concerned about the whole race in terms of fuel, and actually something we were keeping an eye on. We saw Keith Haney was the driver in the 87 who ran that lead group down, and we were concerned as to whether he was going to have enough fuel. Coming to the white flag, it looked like he was going to, and I'm assuming everybody else in the top 5 did as well. But did that play into kind of how you approached that last run? I think you've touched on it a little bit, saying that you took 2 tires, but did you expect it to go green when you made that call?
No, I didn't expect it to go green to the end. I expected to have a decent long run, but I definitely didn't expect it to go that long. And I mean, we almost went green at the end. He just needed a few more feet, and but that caution came out. So yeah, it's 2 in a row that's kind of slipped through my fingers now. Bristol, we all know what happened there last week, and then tonight. And I definitely got to get better on my tire management. And I'm gonna look back at this race and see what I can learn. And I know you guys are off the next 2 weeks. I think the next week you guys broadcast us as Daytona. But hopefully these next 2 races I can get good finishes and then keep extending my points lead.
Well, I believe that we will actually be covering Pocono next week. It's the following week where I believe we'll be covering the Majors Series instead on that Sunday. But we'll definitely be looking out for you at Pocono. Obviously, you've been the car to watch in terms of the sort of the barometer of pace. It's always yourself that we're looking for, and we're kind of referencing everybody off of that. It's got to be good in terms of a point sense, though, because your main competitor, I would consider at this point, is Rachel Hunt, and obviously that incident near the end took her out of contention for the top 5 initially, but then she stayed out, and she wasn't able to pick up as many points as you were. She fell back down to 17th. So even though you didn't get the chance to pick up the win and just missed out on the top 5, in terms of a points day, it's actually still been pretty good for you. Yeah,
it was still a good points day. On that pit stop, the last restart, I slid through my box, which kind of hurt me. So I mean, me and James are teammates. So if I was able to not slide through my box, I'm sure me and him would have pushed him right to the lead. Hopefully, Rachel, she has a lot of talent. She hangs out with us in Discord, and she helps us out a little bit on the restarts and stuff. But yeah, she's one hell of a racer, and it's gonna be a good battle between me, her, James, everyone else that's coming in the league, getting better and faster every week.
Well, speaking of the following week, in terms of Pocono, is that a track that you enjoy? Is it one that maybe you're not a great fan of? You got any thoughts going into that week?
I enjoy Pocono. When PRL used to have the Xfinity Series, I loved that track in the B car. The Cup car with this new package, it's iffy. This new tire model is definitely going to spread the field out. It's going to make it really hard to pass. Tire management is going to be really key, and just not overusing your stuff too early, which is something that I gotta fix with my tire wear. So, it's going to be an interesting race. I think there's going to be a lot of strategy like there was tonight and next week, because of how hard it is going to be to pass, I think. So, I mean, yeah, we get those long straightaways, but those corners are going to be tight.
Well, we'll definitely be looking out for you there. And before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I like to thank my mom, my aunt, my dad, and my stepmom for watching. I like having support. James, Rachel, Diecast Kings for being the title sponsor. You guys at PRL. The guys at PRL, you guys at GSRC. Everybody at Underground Racing, Folds of Honor, Susan G. Coleman, Multiple Sclerosis Society, Craftsman, and everyone that tunes in and watches.
Well, thank you for coming and chatting with us, and we'll look out for you next week, and good luck for Pocono.
All right, guys. Thanks.
That was Richard Regan Jr. coming home in 6th tonight. I'd like to thank him, Jose Tellez, Paul Williams II, and James O'Brien for joining us in the broadcast booth for post-race comments. Christian, your quick final thoughts before we get ready for Pocono next week.
Well, I think after tonight we've seen probably the best race I think I've seen in this league so far, and it was definitely a great show. And I think one driver that we've got to keep an eye on if he comes back next week is Keith Haney, because the ability to cut through the field like he did is something that we've not yet seen in this league. and I think he's definitely going to maybe be a bit of a problem for those guys going for a championship if he's racing week in, week out. So I'd like to definitely see him back at Pocono, and I think Pocono itself is quite a unique track. As Richard talked about a little bit there, it's a little different in terms of tire management, and it's a bit more of a thing. And obviously with the Cup car, there's a huge amount of draft, especially down the straightaways there. So I think we'll see even crazier restarts than we did tonight.
I think so too, especially with how much space there is down the front straightaway. See who can handle the 3-turn tricky triangle. Well, we'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting action here from Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'd also like to thank the PRL Cup Series. What was a strong showing tonight, to say the very least, from the Precision Racing League. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for broadcast listed up on your screen now. With additional thanks to Judah Lawn, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks as well to the team today, Christian Challenger and Sean Ambrose. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including the upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help out with the supporting channel, you can check it out. Our merchandise for sale at gsrc.storenvy.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, one word, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Next race you'll see on GSRC is February the 2nd, when the PRL Cup Series, sponsored by Diecast Kings, makes its way to Pocono Raceway. Be sure to tune in. Broadcast starts at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:50 Pacific. We also have upcoming races for other series listed up on your screen, so check those out and mark them down in your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.